This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever want. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever wanna miss. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever wanna miss. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance that you don't ever wanna miss. This is the life. This is the life. This is the place you wanna go. This is the time to see the world you never known. This is the life. This is the dream. This is the wish. This is the chance.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to day two. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the Nigerian International TV Summit. So today is for TV people. For some reason, today was actually very important. I looked at all the discussions. I'm like, okay, today's my day. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for yesterday. That was very impressive turnout. Today, I'm hoping the seats will also be filled. Today, we're starting with a keynote speech by Amadou Bakayoko, Director General of Radio Vision Television Avarin. I don't know, did I get that one? Can we please? I tried, yeah? Consi consa. All right, please, Ahmad, can you please come forward? Thank you.
Nagwana, everybody? Do I pronounce it correctly? I was told Nagwana is the hello in Hausa. Did I get a good advice? Oh, okay. You say Nagwana. It's Nakwana. So it's a pleasure to be here today to discuss with you. Um, it's interesting. Before I dive into the specifics of this conversation, I'm Ivorian, and I'd never had a chance to to come to Nigeria. So obviously, I've heard a lot about Nigeria. I've had some friends that are Nigerian. So I was really curious before coming here to see, okay, what am I going to see? I've only been here for more than 24 hours. And the interesting thing is that I realized that we have so much preconceptions about, countries, people, that you should go there. You should go there, talk to people, see for yourself. It really is important. I was talking with some of my friends before coming here, and we were doing a small game that we do sometime when we need to go abroad. Is that you ask to each one, okay, give me 2 words about the country. So you see, what the preconceptions people have about the country. Do you want to know what the preconceptions they had about Nigeria? Okay. Some are good and some are bad. Be ready for it. But the interesting was that everybody would always say smart, messy. Dynamic, messy. Love for cash, messy. So that was something that I felt through the whole conversation. And by coming here yesterday, we went for dinner Victoria Island, and we used a bridge of 15 kilometers. I've been traveling in more than 10 countries in Africa. I don't remember seeing in a city a bridge of more than 15 kilometers, which means that you have this idea of the market, the open air market, the yellow cars that are, that's the image you see, the yellow vans that people use for transportation, the open markets. That's the image that we have from outside from Nigeria. You don't realize that it's a bustling city with, a lot of new infrastructure building, modern. Obviously, it's only 24 hours. But I'd like to say that what I see makes me want to come back again, and you'll see me again in Nigeria. So RTI is the national broadcaster of Ivory Coast. We've been around for more than 50 years, and we have 3 TV stations and 3 radio stations. Myself, I started my career, it's interesting, yesterday I was smiling. Started my career in finance. Looks like there's a lot of panelists that did start their career in finance. I was in Silicon Valley as a financial analyst, and then I moved to Europe, where I was running business development and strategy for Canal Plus. For those who don't know, Canal Plus is the francophone equivalent of DSTV, the major satellite player in francophone Africa. And then from there, my country offered me the opportunity to come back and work for the broadcaster and help it do its transformation and adapt to the new challenges of the industry. So it was a real pleasure for me to come back and help and try to use all this experience that I had by traveling abroad. What I'd like to share with you today, 2 things. One thing is I'd like to, share some of the challenges from my perspective that I see that we are facing as an industry, and more specifically as a player who has been in the industry for some time now. And the second part is, okay, given the challenges and issues at stake, there's certainly also opportunities, and I'm gonna, try to use all this experience that I had by traveling abroad. What I'd like to share with you today, 2 things. One thing is I'd like to, share some of the challenges from my perspective that I see that we are facing as an industry, and more specifically as a player who has been in the industry for some time now. And the second part is, okay, given the challenges and issues at stake, There's certainly also opportunities, and I'm gonna, share with you some of the things we believe we should be doing to harness the opportunities and to fend off the threats and that are coming, and I should say the barbarians at the gate. As an industry, I think it's a period of dramatic change. That's one key word that I think can describe everything that's happening now or about to happen. Among some of those changes, I would, share with you a few of them. I think the first one is probably one of the most enduring, with the most significance, is the fact that people have access to more and more and more and more and more content. That's really something that we're all facing, is like an explosion of content that's accessible to our audiences, which obviously the more content available, which means the more competition for eyeball, the more competition for attention, the more competition to be able to attract the interest of the people that we are targeting, be it on a free-to-air basis or be it on a paid TV basis. The more content available, the more difficult it is to stand out from the crowd because there's so much available. The second, I think, issue, which is close to the first one, is the fact that our audiences don't have a clue about the cost of producing the content. They just judge the content. Unfortunately for us in our industry, just by using this remote control, you go from 500,000 channel to a $1 million channel to a $1 billion channel, and you don't know it. So obviously the audience doesn't know how much it costs. They just compare the two. So you being compared to people who had much more amounts available to you, and the people themselves are not ready for the difference. If you compare, I don't know, hospital in Lagos and an hospital in say, London or the US, obviously by taking the plane to London or the US, you're expecting that there's a different level of service that's provided to you. But by using this remote control, you don't know that you travel across cost, across size, and obviously that you shouldn't fully compare, and that sometimes maybe something that's done on a lower budget like we guys are trying to do, people should encourage us and say, wow, for this amount you were able to do maybe 50% of the value that someone that has 10 times your budget, but people don't know it. So one, they have access to a lot of content, and two, they don't know how much it costs. So you're being compared apple to apple, where this shouldn't happen, but unfortunately we need to live with it. Another one that I think is also an important challenge, but also on some side an opportunity, is the wave of technological change. There's so much technological change happening right now that content is accessible across a lot of different platforms. We used to have like satellite or DTT cable. Now you have the mobile, now you have the IPTV. The more and more technologies are coming in, and the difficulty that those technology bring is that, one, they break the geographic barrier, and in our industry they used to be where you had a place where you would profit from your content, and then you would try to sell and get some money from another region. That's what you do when you have your DVDs. You sell it in one city, and then in another city, and then in another country. Now the issue is that with the internet, with all those technology, with piracy going with this technology, you produce your content, and when you think you want to use it outside, someone has already used it on the web, and someone has already made a lot of money on YouTube. We're facing that, and we've seen some of our shows that have hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, and it's a hassle to go on YouTube and make sure that they take out. And some of the conversations we're having, were difficult, because they would say sometimes, okay, if you put it on YouTube, it's easier for you to protect your content. I say, but if I decide I don't want to put it on YouTube, it still is my content that I did produce with my money. So even enforcing your rights on some of those platforms is difficult. They don't give you a specific email address, so you have to send 5, 10 email addresses to different people before you get an appropriate response. So the technology is also becoming a challenge. But I say it's also an opportunity on one side, because with these changes in technology, we have access to equipment that's a lot cheaper than before. So we are able to do much more effects. We are able to mirror, in a sense, some people that have much more money than us. Last year, I think, or 2 years ago, someone was coming back from the NAB, which is the main event in Las Vegas, and he was telling me that he saw a $1 million camera. So I was laughing. I say, what do you do with a $1 million camera? But obviously, some of the movies we're seeing on screen did use a $1 million camera. I think probably in this room nobody can afford a $1 million camera. So, this changes. At least the good thing is that we have access to some technology that are good enough. I think if the talent is on top of it, it's good enough to be able to do things. And the last challenge that I think we're facing, and among the key challenges for me, is what I call the barbarians at the gate, which is all the new players that are trying to get into this industry. You have the telecom players, MTN, Orange for Francophone country and all that. I mean, we're looking at the numbers of MTN yesterday. MTN does in a day what I think some of us do in a year. So obviously, you imagine the size of this player. When this player decide to get into your industry and decide to do content, decide to have a platform to show your content or to show its own content, obviously it's a major threat that's coming at you, and for which you need to have solutions, you need to have answers. They themselves are challenged in their core business of making calls, SMS, so now they're moving toward other value-added services, which is data, which is mobile money. So data, obviously, when you look at our countries where, I don't know for Nigeria, but I think half of the population of Ivory Coast didn't go to school. So if people don't go to school, it means that they can't read. So what are they going to do online? They're going to watch videos because they can't read. They're not going to read the newspaper. They're going to watch videos. I think we all have, I was looking at our maid. We gave her a smartphone so that when we travel, we can call her on WhatsApp and all that. And last time I was going into the kitchen and she was watching YouTube. She doesn't know how to write. She didn't go to formal schooling. But she was able to go on YouTube. My son showed her YouTube, and I think quickly she figured what she wanted. So obviously they're saying data, but the idea is that it's video. So those guys are representing a threat for us because they're getting into our market. They have a lot of money. We were, for example, we had a co-production with a company. I'm not going to say anything specifics, but we produced the content, and then we decided to launch and to do an event to communicate about the series. And there was one telecom player that decided to sponsor the launch, not the production. But the producer with which we were working was ready to give everything to the telecom player. We say, come on, we did invest before. So for what they're paying is just small visibility, but the person was ready to give everything to them. We had to fight to make sure that she doesn't give you too much. Why? Because it's a big player with a lot of money. So obviously, the talent in the industry is going to look at them as sources of money. So obviously for us, I mean, I'm talking as a channel, it's going to be, fighting against people with much more resources. So even the people you're working with are looking at them, with glitz in their eyes because they see the dollar or the CFA or the Naira. So this is also a challenge, the telecom player. And there's also the international players like the Facebook, Apple, Google. They are also a very big challenge. They are a very big challenge. On one side, they don't have the rules to respect. I mean, in Ivory Coast, there's a duty, a tax that you have to pay on publicity. Publicity done on Facebook, on YouTube, and Google, there's no tax paid on it because it's paid abroad, so it's less expensive for the client. Obviously, those platforms have been able to attract billions of people. They have great technological services, and people use it, which means that you have to fight with someone which has much more technologically has a service that's very strong. And in some advanced market of Europe, I was reading some of the numbers. So not only does the advertising market is bigger on digital than on TV, but on top of that, I think the top two players, which were Facebook and Google, YouTube and all that, were taking more than 75%. But, if I remember correctly, it was between 65 and 75% share of the advertising market. So not only the bigger part of the advertising market is going to internet, but on top of that, those players are taking larger share of this. So if these trends come to our countries, we are living out of advertising. So there's a big challenge coming, in front of us to be able to adapt, to be able to survive, to be able to thrive in the environment with so much people coming. Now, obviously, when you have those challenges, you shouldn't be looking at them and then praying for, I don't know, whatever juju to save you. But you have to, try to find solutions and ideas. Which is the last part of my conversation that I want to share with you, which is On our side, we believe that there are three things around which we believe that we can, despite those challenges, create a good reality for us. Among those three things, the number one is talent. And I was really happy yesterday that some of the panelists, I didn't remember his name, when he was talking, was saying that the biggest assets in this industry is talent. Talent is more important than formal training and all that. You need to have the talent. Obviously, it's not enough to have raw talent. You need to work on it. But obviously, talent is the key thing. So by being on the ground for more time, by being interested, I think all of us are passionate about this industry. So obviously, it gives us an extra edge. It's not just a business opportunity. I think for a lot of us, it's also a passion. So we should be able to secure the talent. Obviously, it means maybe changing the conversation with those talents as producers or as channel owners or channel TV. But obviously, we need to secure the relationship with the talents. Really, it's something we need to work with this relationship. We need to make sure that they're satisfied. Obviously, some of them want too much or are going to become crazy because they see too much attention. But I think that on our side, we have what it takes to nurture those relationships, to show them that we're in for a long time, that we've been there. So, which means that you need to change your behavior toward them as soon as possible. Because if you wait the last minute that all the other guys are around, then it's not serious. Then they realize that you're just doing this to fend off, and then they're gonna go to the highest bidder. It means that you need to start working before you need it to develop the relationship with this talent. You need to work on this relationship so that when the person is starting to be, hit by more proposal, there's this relationship that you have with the person before. So I think talent and relationship with talent is something very crucial. The second thing I believe also is innovation. Obviously, if you don't have the biggest boat, you need to be the fastest. So I believe strongly in the fact that we should be looking for first mover advantage. We should be looking for ways to move faster, innovate, to discover the new thing, to ride the curve at the first level because they are bigger. So once it's clear, they're going to go at it with means that are much bigger than ours. So if we're not the first one, at least to try and stabilize our position because we're the first trying to do it, if it's in the open, if it's a front page of the newspaper, then obviously they can read the newspaper also. And then if you do the fight, they can throw much more money at the issue that you do. So we strongly believe in the fact of trying to be at the cutting edge. It's not always easy, but at least trying to see what's happening and trying to be in front. And the last thing we believe also is important is cooperation, international cooperation, and most likely regional cooperation. We really believe that is something also. As I said, I work in the US and in Europe, and you see that even the bigger players, they are doing merger to become bigger. They are doing partnership. So if the biggest are doing it, why should we be so overjealous about, I want to keep my thing, I want to keep my thing, I want to keep the control, I want to be at the center front. I think collaboration, there's not much. If we're here, it's because we believe that we should be forging relationships. We looked around and say, okay, what's the biggest market in the region? It's Nigeria. So we should come here. There's a lot of people coming here. We could have come with 2 people, 3 people. We did bring more people so that more see what's happening, more conversation, in the sessions, in the B2B, informally. We want to get to know more about this region. And that's something we believe we've underestimated for too long, the power of the cooperation in the region. Because we all have, in a sense, we're eating the same food, maybe with different sauces, but it's pretty much the same food, it's the same culture, the music, we're listening to pretty much the same music. It depends of ways. Sometimes it's Nigeria, after that it's Central Africa, after that it's Western Africa, but pretty much it's the same cultural background. And this industry is about the culture. So, there's a lot of things we believe that we should try to do together. And by being together, we have better chance to be at the forefront. We have better chance to be in a more stable position when the others are coming, because we would at least try to get the best value of everything that's around. Remember at the beginning of my speech, I was telling you all the preconceptions that I had about Nigeria. Well, it's because as a media, and I do accept it, and we don't talk a lot about what's happening around. For some time now, we've been working on trying to have more African news because I realized that we are relying on international sources. I'm not going to name them, but those sources, what are they giving us as content? They're giving us, and I was looking on my phone because I have the rundowns of the elements that we present at the 8 p.m. newscast. So I typed Nigeria to try to see what were the top three, the last three subjects that we covered. Boko Haram 10 dead, Boko Haram 30 dead, and there was I think a racing championship recently, African racing championship, where an Ivorian did win something. Those were the last three subjects that we covered by Nigeria. So obviously, we need to do more, to talk more about what's happening in Nigeria. Yesterday we heard that you're working on 30-kilometer bridge, a new bridge in the city. It's interesting to see that, well, Nigeria is working on its infrastructure. Nigeria is working, progressing toward achieving the development objective that they're giving themselves. So, as I said, regional collaboration, because we were relying on external sources that were only showing some aspects. And it was not the best aspect of your country that they were showing. So if we want to increase collaboration, it means if people in Ivory Coast has to look at Nigeria as a place where they want to do things, then we need to present Nigeria in the light of the things that Nigeria is doing. So obviously, that's part of what we have to do. It's also an opportunity for us to be more relevant by bringing more regional news, talking about positive things that are happening in our country. Because as I said, if it comes from outside, it comes with a bias. I was talking with an international, again, I don't like to give specific name because it's just for the purpose of you understanding. Talking about a company in Europe, and they called us about a co-production. Say, okay, why not? Let's discuss it. They say, oh, we have this great subject. You're going to love it. Okay, what's the subject? They first say the name of the series is Fatou the Liar. Okay, what is it about? It's about a maid in a bank agency in a country in Europe. So she's cleaning in the bank. But back home, she's saying that she's a financial advisor. And one day, she's deported in her country, and people start to give her money. And so she makes a killing by managing this money. She said, oh, it's a great story. I say, so you're telling me that a maid in a bank can come to Africa and become a top financial manager? What are you telling me? What image are you projecting? Just by being a maid there means that you come here and you become the hero? So what does it tell about the level of the people that are here? So just to say that we have to tell our own stories in the light that present us as we want to be presented. We're not saying that everything is perfect. We're not saying that there's no corruption. We're not saying that there's no issue. But at least if we do regional collaboration, I'm pretty much sure no Nigerian producer would come to me with a story about Fatou the Liar. Because we want to present an image of Africa that's positive, and that's, I think, what our audiences need. So that's really something I believe is important. So that's what I wanted to share with you. At least know that I want to congratulate Ijeoma, because for us it has been very interesting, those conversations, listening to what's happening here. On some aspects, we're very close to what you guys are doing. On other aspects, I was listening to the Noli Fund and all that. You guys are much more advanced on some aspects that we are. But that's the idea. We came here to learn, to make new contacts. And I think later this afternoon, we present you in more specific terms what we're doing and what we're looking for. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Amadu, for that powerful starter speech. A lot is happening. We're ready for a lot. I think a lot of people here want to hear more. So I think I'll call Ijema to continue the conversation with Amadu, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very sure we listened to Amadou in his keynote speech. He made some very, very key points, very interesting conversations. I remember I met him when we had the NITV Summit in Paris this last April, and he walked up to me and he said, why are we not having anything to do with Nigeria? We are working with the Asians, we are working with South Korea, and so I'm so happy that finally you're here, and we're beginning the conversation. I think we must always understand that there must be a beginning, there must be a start point to everything. And I want to believe that this is the starting of building a bridge, a long-lasting bridge between Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria in the audiovisual section. Thank you. So now, Amadou, you give us just a brief understanding of how you started your journey in Silicon Valley, and then from there you went to Canal, and then the president poached you from Canal, yes, to come and head the national broadcast RTI in Cote d'Ivoire. Can you just give us an idea of the things that you have done, how you have changed things? Because working for government, there is a lot, you coming from the private sector, coming into government. Did the president give you like a free hand to do whatever you want to do? Just give us just a bit of an idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have to say that one thing that they did, which I think was crucial in helping us achieve some of the results we had, is that when we did the interview, they say, we know that taking a guy like you should be number one, but we're asking you to come as a number two and wait for some time to discover the company. At first, when they say that, I was a bit hesitating, but say, no, it's for your own sake. You're going to discover the company, how it works and all that, and then it gives you a better foundation for the future, which I think was this transition period was helpful because it helped me get to understand, get to know the people, because I believe in management it's about finding the talent, because there's always, remember what I said at the beginning, the talent. There's always talent in a company, and I think even in the public sector, we may have a biased version, a vision of it. I think it's just about waking those energies, this talent, finding them within the company, training them, because maybe sometimes they were lacking training. They were lacking training or exposure, because sometimes you need to give someone something to do so that he can show. If he doesn't have the stage to prove what he's worth at, someone who used to do short, if you never give him a chance to do a series, is never going to show you what he has. So, giving people opportunity, that was important, I think. We're going to show you some images later this afternoon, but to give you a sense. In terms of the progress we made, there's a couple of them. We did bring a lot of new shows. Dozens of new shows were added to the table. We changed the business model, because initially when I came, 2/3 of our revenue were coming from public subsidies. And public people were paying a tax for this. Now it's the contrary, which is now those public sources are 1/3, and 2/3 are coming for commercial activities. So there was a big focus done on creating the right shows, developing the advertising team. So it helped us get resources to reinvest. So it was a virtuous cycle, because I think I did take a $5 million loan. A few months when I become CEO, next month I took a $5 million loan to start doing some investment, and obviously those investments paid off, and we reinvested, and it allows us to have a better product. Obviously, the clients start to come more, so it's a virtual cycle. In addition to the core business, improvement of the core business, we worked on two other aspects. One aspect is the distribution and co-production arm, which is producing content to sell it abroad. So this, we're very happy about the progress, because now we've sold in more than 20 countries our content on VOD platform, airline, and so on, and we elaborate on that later on. And the third aspect that we created also was the digital part. I remember I told you that digital is becoming more and more important. So we launched a new website, we've launched a mobile application with hundreds of thousands of people downloading this mobile app. Someone was telling me that even his imam in New York is using it. I was laughing, saying that, he listened to the news through his mobile application. And Facebook, Twitter, and all that, I think we have more than 2 million people now on our platforms. Ivory Coast is 20 million, so it's not 200 million, 24 million in the country. So 2.5 million. C'est combien de personnes en tout sur les réseaux sociaux? Tous nos réseaux. C'est ça. Everything to 3 million people on a country of 24, which is pretty interesting. So that's some of the things we were able to achieve. Improvement in the business, in the content and quality, and we'll show you some of the images later today. Creation of the new international department, and We're starting to have revenues coming from outside, which is good because it had us more ability to do better shows. And three, the digital part, where we are getting, our feet into this new part of our business.
Wow, this is so interesting. It's very interesting to find out that a public broadcaster is becoming very aggressive in the business of television, considering the fact that you would think that ordinarily a public broadcaster is just there to drive the government agenda. But we see a completely different approach. We see a completely different this attitude. And I'm hoping that is a challenge for every one of us. This is a challenge to to private broadcasters. I mean, to have come to the level where you are now you're producing your original content and then you are selling international. That is amazing. And for you to come within this short time, revamping the whole process, making it a profitable business, not relying on government subsidies anymore, having your government subsidy now 1/3 of your revenue, and then advertising, creating content that is strong enough to pull advertising. I think that is really amazing. Please let's put our hands together again for him. Okay, so because we're running short of time, I listened to you very well, and excuse me, and I looked at some of the challenges you pointed out. You looked at content becoming more and more difficult to having so much content, and now you have to make sure that for you to have the eyeballs, because again, content has to be quality for it to draw the eyeballs. Now having people have access to content, YouTube is there, different mobile applications are available. So so as a traditional broadcaster providing linear services, do you think that your strategy of doing both linear and non-linear, which is digital, you think that that is something that is sustainable for you as a public broadcaster? Because with non-linear, the demand for content is there. You have to make sure that you are refreshing, that you are putting new content, the demand, people binge watch. So what is your strategy in this area?
Obviously, it's difficult. That's why I was saying it's a challenge, because there's so much things that you need to do at the same time, and the resources are not that big. So it's a constant trade-off. Let me give you an example of something we did just this year, this summer, to give you an idea of the thought process that we're trying to have. The first 3 years we were focusing on doing new things because we believe that there's a problem of the quality of what we're doing. Now more and more what we are realizing is that the patterns of consumptions are changing, which means that sometimes you may have the right content, but by giving it this way, maybe you're missing out on some people that don't have access to it. So now what we're trying to do is to say, okay, we do create, but we make sure that it's available in different formats, which is in linear. You give it at 1 hour during the regular season, which is October to June for us. And then during the summer, you do it in another hour, the same content, so that those that didn't see it at this time maybe get a chance to see it. And we did something about the news, because as you said, obviously, as public broadcaster, you cannot forget the government. I have to be honest. So, for example, if you look at our newscast 8 p.m., maybe the first 10 minutes are about the president's agenda, the minister's agenda. All the presidents of our, in the region are all in China. So if you looked at the newscast this week, you would have, 7-8 minutes about what's happening in China, and then the prime minister doing this and all that. So for the first 10-12 minutes of the news, which is 30 minutes, are focused on the government. But after that, we have usually 5 minutes which are really news about the lives of Ivorian. We call it the dossier, and it's 5 minutes about, we take a subject, we take erosion in some coastal areas, we're talking about someone doing green agriculture. So it's something really that people are really interested in. But what we realized was that some people, we didn't want to see the government, either because they were from the opposition, or either because they didn't want to see 10 minutes of news about the government, they wouldn't see it. So what we did was that we called it the dossier of the newscast. So we created the new magazine, but it's just based on what we did the full year. All those 5 minutes, we put them in a 26-minute show. So no new content, it's just editing. And then some people discovered it at 9 p.m. Some people who don't want to watch the news because they don't want to see the politics and all that, they discover it and they call it, say, oh, this is interesting. But this is something that was done 6 months or 9 months before. So what we're trying to do, but it's just this summer to tell you, is that at first we do linear and then we start to doing things on non-linear. But as you say, it's expensive. So now what we're trying to do is to say, okay, you do something, but you change the way you present it. Be it in linear or non-linear, which gives, more legs to your dollars. You change the way you present. And I think it's something, there's no competitor in the room, so I'm happy to talk. But it's something I think, trying to present the same thing in a different way, it's one way to look at it.
I think that's very important. Strategy is very key, especially when you're doing content and understanding the fact that content is very expensive. So you have to be very, very creative in, the way you're putting out your content, the way people are monetizing it, and that's actually fantastic. So the last point before I take one or two questions will be in terms of collaboration. We see that recently they had. Oh, sorry. Before I came to work in Cordova, I never knew there was a country called Abidjan or Cordova. In all honesty, I actually had to ask myself, where exactly is Abidjan? And that is how there has been so much disconnect between Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. I don't know why. Maybe because of the language. I can't really say. But it's just 1 hour, 30 minutes flight away. And there is so much business that can, happen between the two countries. Now we're looking at the film and the television industry. We're talking about collaborations. We're looking at how we can work together. You are championing this, and I'm sure from your leadership, you're showing leadership to the rest of the industry, to producers. I have one or two producers from here, from your country, who came because they want to do stuff. They want to do something with Nigeria, just sharing in the same vision that you have. Now, can you just give us an idea of what your plans are? I know we have another session later this afternoon, producing with RTI, which I encourage every one of us to be here. These are very serious people. You can see they came here with a very big team, so I encourage us to try and be there to see how. But just, in a nutshell, what are we expecting? What are we looking for? What are the plans? What are you looking at achieving by bringing your whole team? You are the chief executive, and then you drew the head of distribution, the head of RTI distribution, the CEO, Anna, is here, and then her team of international, the team in international sales and distribution is also here. So just give us an idea of what are the strengths that we can leverage on. As Nigeria, we know we have content that is commercially viable, that is on demand, that can travel, and then I watched Siblings Rivalry and I was challenged. I'm like, wow. So this is coming out of Cote d'Ivoire. This is amazing. Quality good, everything very, international. So can you just give us a bit of an idea?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we're looking for is sharing, learning, and sharing ideas. When we were in Paris, I listened to the CEO of Aforevo. I think it was the CEO, right? Aforevo, the tall guy. Okay. And the guy was giving number about digital. My eyes were like, oh, I wish I have the same numbers. So obviously, when we came, I say to the head of digital, you should be at the session of, where Aforevo is, because what they're doing is great. The second thing, there's Ebony Life. We met in Cannes at the MIP TV last year, and I didn't know Ebony Life was exist. It was a minority summit, and I watch and I see there's Ebony Life, so Mo Aboudou and Eunice. And then we had a meeting, and I looked at what they're doing. So I heard about Wedding Party. I say, oh, I've heard about the Wedding Party on Netflix and all that. So, just by seeing that, and I looked at it on the Netflix, I say it's great content. So the first thing is, one, learning for us, learning, because some of the things you do are great, and we want to, learn about this. And the second is co-production, where we, as you still, we've done some co-production with people very far from here. So we think that maybe there could be stories that, could be related to involving people coming from one country to the other and vice versa. And so we're looking for stories like this where we could do that we could do together, where we could fund the production together and put it on screen in French and in English. There's challenge in doing this in English, but we did it with the Indians in a nutshell. Now, obviously, there are conditions and all that in which we're going to go into more details. And obviously, our resources are limited. I don't want to overextend myself or come here and say I have $1 billion to spend. No, but I believe that even if you don't have a lot, you can start to do things, which is what we're trying to do.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to take one or two questions for Amadou, but before that, quickly, please, if you're the owner of a Kia KT and interesting, and I want to say thank you again. We are chairing a roundtable session, and we hope to hear more about what we can do together with RTI. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Amadou and your team. We're jumping to our first panel for today, and that will be on future and sustainability of pay TV in Nigeria, traditional versus digital, linear versus non-linear. And to help us buttress this topic, we have Emeka of Questec Media Consulting, Bamidele Adetunji of Montage Media Group, Fumi Adenike of Play TV, Zachary Wazara of Quesa TV, and Litsi Oliver of Younger TV. Can you please come forward if you're here? Thank you. A hand of applause for them, please. Do you want to sit down? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Starting our first session on pay TV. You've already been introduced to everybody by name, but I'm just going to ask each member of the panel to give you a 2-minute, well, probably less than 2-minute summary of who they are, what they've done in the industry, so that you can get to know people a little bit better. So, Emeka, should we start with you?
Sorry, let me apologize for my voice. I had a late night, so. Those of you who don't know me, I've worked in the media business close to 30 years. I've worked in the operational side, on the private sector side. Spent a bit of time in multi-choice and was head of content, and then later on head of regulatory affairs. And then I found myself in government on the regulatory side of things with the Film and Video Censors Board, and later on with the National Broadcasting Commission. So that's it's been my background, really. And yeah, I think that's all.
Okay. Bamidele?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bamidele Adetunji. I've been in and around media since 1998. However, I delved into financial services as a banker for a while, and energy services. That was outside of Nigeria. And I had a fortune of making friends with Mr. Mba here. So I got a license to start a DTH license. A lot of people said either I was mad or mightily brave, to start a DTH platform in Nigeria. So I founded Montage Cable Network, which I used to demystify the myth that PBR is only when you are rich. So we worked around a lot of things concerning the technology and the quality alternative content that we offer. And so far, that has been my journey. But, I create content and I broadcast content.
I'm just wondering if it's because I'm too close to you. Is that possible?
So
No, that wouldn't make any difference. Okay.
anyway, I'm still in the business of owning of platform ownership because I'm migrating my technology currently, knowing what the market says. Because today now, people who take decisions about television content consumption, they no longer watch television the way everybody used to watch it. So we're moving in line with technology and market demands currently. So technically, that's what we still do. Thank you for having me here.
Fumi.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fumi Adinaike. It's a privilege to be sitting with the boss in Mikamba this morning. I've been doing media since I got out of school. I started at High TV, and then I've done legal part of it, content part of it, operation part of it, and then I currently run a business called Play TV. We used to be called Concert, but we have just rebranded the business. It's a DTH platform, and we do basically local content distribution. Thank you.
Thank you. And Zachary?
Good morning. I'm Zach Wazara, and I'm from the Econet Group. I am currently in Nigeria doing Kwese TV. My background is really, apart from advertising and media, I spent almost 15 years building networks across Africa, mobile networks. So, I set up quite a number of mobile networks, including what is now Airtel in Nigeria today as the first CEO. In fact, I've got one of the things that I'm, proud of is the fact that I made the first official GSM call in Nigeria. So, so my background is largely, telecommunications and business development, and now I'm in media, setting up the Kwese TV infrastructure in different parts of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Lindsay Oliver. I'm from Yanga TV, UK. We're a television channel for the African diaspora in the UK, and we will be growing from there to other markets. My connection really with Nigeria is that it was TVC for a year in 2016. So that's the experience that I've got of Nigeria. I just want to talk through some of the challenges of this market, and my goodness, there are challenges. Sustainability, I think, is a huge issue here. For the setting that you've got is that within Africa, I've read that there's about 25 million pay TV households. Does that sound correct? It's always difficult to know whether you can trust the figures you're reading on the internet, but that's what I've been given. And that Nigeria is now the largest of the African markets in terms of pay TV, something approaching 5 million households, I think, for pay TV. And within that structure, you have a range of technologies, don't you? You have, if you like, the standard, the DTH, the original pay TV. And perhaps I can speak to Bamidele and Fumi to begin with. It seems to, both of you, one at a time, but it seems to me that the major challenge there is the cost. It's the, how do you survive? How do you cope with the cost of satellite distribution when other players in the market are bringing in cheaper forms of delivery?
Like you just mentioned, there are different forms of distribution, satellite, internet, but because of the terrain that we are in, satellite basically is the most
not affordable, but it is the most accessible to our own people. Internet is still a little bit expensive for our own terrain. So the satellite is now more expensive for the players because we have to have, at least you have to have a minimum of a transponder for you to be able to distribute channels across the satellite. So, and if the cost of a capacity is going to about $100,000 in a year, and you're able to distribute about 30 channels on that capacity, it's a big and a huge. It is, I don't know how to say it, but it's hard to sustain it.
Yes.
So when you have 30 channels and you distribute at about $2, which is for us at Play, we distribute about $3 or 40 channels, and then we have customers that would want to do 60 channels. They would want you to do 100 channels because there's already a standard in the industry, and you have to meet that standard or at least do something that is near that standard. So sustainability is really, really a challenge. The infrastructure isn't there, power isn't there. You have to invest a lot in power. It's either you're using a generator or you're doing inverters and all of that. And then you also have to pay for those content that you're distributing. It's hard to, most of the content that we even have, most of the premium content are exclusive. So for you to be able to do good content to distribute and be able to sustain the business, it is also a challenge. So there are different challenges in the pay TV industry. So if you want to even do IPTV, say you want to go into the process of doing internet is not as cheap as just buying a box and paying subscription. So for people in this country that want to have access to minimum premium content, not just local channels, it's hard for someone to stream channels 247 every day, and then I'm sure you'll be spending about maybe 10,000 naira, if I'm right, for you to have internet access to be able to stream channels on your TV or on an IPTV box. So there are enormous challenges in the industry, enormous. And then when you don't find channels accessible, premium channels, when everything is exclusive to some of the players in the industry, you're not able to give your customers what they want to see. So you have to make do with what is available, and then try to.
Okay. So what you're saying, I think, is that the first movers, if you like, for DSTV coming into the market, and then for Star Times, who were the disruptor, but have now become more established, with the critical mass that they've got and the buying power that they have, it's making it very difficult for the smaller players to move into the market in the satellite distribution space and grow.
Absolutely, it is.
Okay,
Even-
Bamidele, sorry to cut you off for me, but let's see what Bamidele thinks. Yeah.
Yeah, from my own experience, I'll tell you, the business of DTH is 4 business combined in one. And my advice to anybody is, a very close friend of mine spoke with me some months back. I said, "Oh, Dele, some people want to put money together for me to start a DTH platform." I said, "Don't." I said, "Don't. No matter what anybody tells you, do not." You know why? Number one, we don't have government protectionism when it comes to monetary policy and fiscal policies in this country. We don't. And so, if I'm not protected, take for instance, I was brave enough to say, okay, I'm going to bring Fox international channels into Africa. I approached Fox, they gave me 10 channels. I approached AMD, I approached SPI. So I brought alternatively new contents into this African market. And I launched with a PVR that they were selling for 160,000. I said I would sell for 35,000. And I did. And, the markers are there in the industry. However, I signed my contracts when Naira to dollar was 180 Naira. And suddenly, Naira flipped to the dollar. At a point, I bought pounds for 550 Naira to pay my playout channel in London, ABS. And so when you have existing contracts that became legacy contract, and the problem, the biggest challenge is consumer attitudes in Nigeria. Let us not kid ourselves. You tell your consumers in Nigeria, oh, I want to increase my channels because my operational cost is increasing. They tell you, no. These people offer me 100 channels. They are charging me 1,500. You are offering me 45 channels. You are charging me 3,500. Why do you want to make it 6,000 a day? So you find out that 4 business in one is DTH. Content aggregation, satellite segment, conditional access system, which is your encryption. Let me give you a classic example in this country where rights are not protected. At the point at which I was doing tests, I went to Alaba and I saw that they were using these GSM SIM cards to watch some operators. Premium content. A channel that was, a platform that was yet to launch then, Concert, they were watching it in Alaba. And when I took my box to them and my dish, they said, Oga, this thing is too perfect. It will not help us make money. Your decoder cannot be hacked. Your dish cannot be hacked. You know, your dish is too perfect. You need to do one that people will be replacing every six months. Your remote control is very strong. Make it the one that will be bad so that every 3 months people will come and buy and we can make money. That is the mindset of people at the other end distributing your content. So it is what gives them money that they will go for. So, you know, if you look at, like my colleague said, satellite segment, I felt I had one of the best deals when it comes to satellite segment. Nigeria refused to have a commercial satellite that is used for broadcast. So we all go to Paris. I shop with Eutelsat. And with Eutelsat, you know, they told me, put down XYZ millions of dollars as cash payment guarantee in case you cannot continue. So they already predicted that you're going to fail. So in case it goes south, they are protected. So if that money they took from me as cash deposit guarantee, which is not my contract, monthly contract, that money, if Nigeria had a commercial broadcast satellite that can do uplink and downlink without me being scared. And you see, my business model basically was that I outsourced. I did co-location. So I don't have any infrastructure in Nigeria. So I even did co-location to reduce the cost. Yet, money, for me, I always tell people, it's not for lack of intelligence. It's not that we don't know what we're doing. Anybody around the industry globally will say, oh my God, these guys know what they're doing. However, you are dead on arrival because the monetary and fiscal policy of this country does not favor anybody in DTH platform business.
Right.
That's the honest truth.
And to some extent, that's exactly what I was trying to get out of you. I must admit, from my experience in this market, I've never understood how the satellite producers, platforms breaking into the market can survive. I agree. I'm not sure. I mean, certainly from the cost of the satellite capacity, etc. And we'll touch on regulatory with Emeka in a minute because, of course, his background is regulatory. But I just wanted to go to Zach now. So this is perfect, Zach. Your business. So how surely your business is coming into this environment with an advantage. Tell us.
Well, I think it's important to put some background to it. I think it's critical to look at where things are going, what's shaping our world today, and globalization is shaping our world. The internet is shaping our world. Technology is shaping our world, and those three, you know. We forget about political populism and other things that are disrupting in other nations. But those three alone have had such a significant impact on how we do business. So it's changing, you know, the internet technology and globalization is changing consumer behavior. It's changing the type of technologies that are available. And the third thing is that it's changing business models. Now, there are a lot of businesses that are doing extremely well, or that are doing the right things. But because of changes, of the impact of those three, business models have changed. And you remember Nokia. Nokia, I think there was a press conference where the CEO of Nokia was saying, we did nothing wrong, but we failed. Why? Because the business models had changed. So banking has been changed by technology. In future, we will see telecom companies being the biggest banks in the country. We're already seeing telephone companies, dominating in industries that were supposed to be standalone industries. And so that's something that we have had to take into account and say, if we are going to go into media, we need to look at what is happening. So we've got a digital, we are going into a digital age. Everything is now digital. In fact, they predict that if your business cannot be done on a mobile phone in 10 years' time, you will not be able to survive.
Yeah.
Okay? We are no longer saying, what's the digital strategy for your business? You ask, what is the strategy for your digital business? So we've got to have that background, up front. So what we have done is we have not looked at things from a technology point of view because technologies are changing. We've got a brand, Kwese, and we've said, how do consumers consume content today? Okay, I think there were discussions that were going on earlier on. My children do not watch this TV anymore. Everything that they do is on their mobile phones, their devices. And that's the global trend. That's where things are going. So what we did is we said, we've got Kwese as a brand, but we will look at how to deliver that. So we've got 5 platforms that we use. We've got satellite, we've got mobile, we've got broadband TV, we've got free-to-air TV utilizing analog and DTT technologies, and then we've got the digital platforms. So we've found that because we are going into the digital age where there is a digital culture, it is so important to be multi-platform so that we're able to access the customer.
Okay, so what's the response to that? Bemidele, have you got plans to move more into that space from traditional DTH?
So, for a business like Econet, they can spring into that because they've got the numbers. They have a head start. So yes, I've started looking at that. I'm relaunching my platform as a full-fledged 100-channel linear OTT VOD platform. However, the biggest challenge now is data penetration. You live in a country where people mistake consumerism to mean business numbers. Somebody told me one day, I say, oh, every driver has an Android phone, so they can stream BBC, they can stream this, they can stream that. However, thank God my friend is here. He will tell us things about latency when it comes to technology like this, and why sometimes you have all these buffering. For somebody to be able to enjoy proper OTT VOD channel, how much does the person need to invest on broadband internet at home? I have a close friend who wanted to do fiber to home in Nigeria. And the technology basically was, it was going to make fiber available using NEPA installations. Yeah. So if you have fiber to home using NEPA installation, the last mile that had been a problem for every user in Nigeria to have access to fast internet will not be there. But some government policy just scuttled that because they now decided to privatize discos. When they privatized discos, they were like, oh, sorry, you don't have access to the switch. So if you can do it, why can't we do it? Today I see banks owning content channels. And I'm like, why can't a bank just stay as a bank and give content producers money to do their business? I was brought into banking in Nigeria from the UK in 2007. And I told the bank as a strategist, I said, set up a media and entertainment desk because the gold mine is going to be in the media business in the next 10 years. They looked at me and they said, that same bank has a TV channel now. What is bank? Seriously, what is a bank doing with the business of TV? Meanwhile, as a content producer, so I am looking into. I've already looked into that. That is the way to go. However, down the line again, we are going to have a problem with data penetration in this country. So, both, I wished this my friend here is still in NBC because he understands how this thing works, how NBC and NCC will have to shake hands to bring forward a regulation that can help with data penetration in Nigeria. Otherwise, I don't want a situation where in 2 years we still come back here. We are saying the same story.
Okay, so Emeka, let's turn to you. Obviously, you're not now at NBC, but you have a lot of experience of the challenges of regulating a country the size of and as populous as Nigeria. And tell us a little bit about those challenges and how they affect these different businesses. I've got 2 questions for you. Firstly, is there a level playing field for the different platforms with the different technologies that they use? And second, big question, what part is the uncertainty in this market around digital switchover playing? They're 2 quite different questions, so we can take them separately if you like. But the first one, is there generally a level playing field, or does it favour certain technologies over the others?
Thank you, Lindsay. I want to thank Ujoma for inviting us. First, let me say that, just to pick up on what Zachary was talking about, how the technology itself, it's really changing the game and how consumers react to that. I think when you ask, is there a level playing field with regards to technology, I think that the final arbiter will really be 2 things. What will decide that will be the level at which incumbents and new players, how they operate, and because the reality is this, and we talked about it. If you look at the Southern African market, huge incumbent like DSTV with 6-point-something million subscribers, a guy with no infrastructure is upending the business. And even Multitrader is now saying maybe there should be some form of regulation policy with regards to how OTT players, and same thing with the mobile networks. So if you ask me, is there a level playing field? No. The reality is that you cannot find a level playing field in an industry that is so dependent on technology. Mm-hmm. It's not possible. Right. And that reality has to sink into everyone in this room. You can't sit still in a business that is fundamentally at the mercy of technology every day, every hour. And you can't stand still. This is an industry where if you think because I've got 6 million subscribers, so I'm comfortable, 18 months down the line, you'll be like a Nokia. So that's one thing. And then on the flip side, businesses need to understand that. Existing players, new players, need to understand that. Look, I give you an example. We here in this room, there's a company called Amazon, just yesterday, $1 trillion valuation. And then this company started selling books in the grocery business. And just to pick up what Zachary, there's a fundamental shift that digital has brought on. And unless you are smart enough to understand that it's a constant conveyor belt, it will keep changing. So there is no level playing field. There will never be a level playing field. And the second point with regards to the regulatory policy, how do you begin to deal with that? I think the same thinking has to apply to regulators themselves in regards to how you design policies. The first thing is, I think, in my view, is who do you favor? Do you favor the industry, or do you want to favor the consumers? And so how you now design policies should be based on that mindset, that Do I want to favor my consumers? Do I want to, because in this age, I hear people talk about let's protect, protect, protect. There's nothing to protect. I think the best thing is to promote. If you have a mindset that I'm going to protect this business, that business, will not exist.
But you might say, playing devil's advocate here, you might say if what is good for the consumer is coming from outside of Nigeria, perhaps even from outside of Africa, do you as a regulator, do the regulators perhaps have a duty to, in some sense, protect their local industry? I can understand you want to protect the consumer, but would you do that at the cost of allowing your local industry to be destroyed because it cannot compete with international players like Amazon, like Netflix, for instance? Or should the regulation say, step back and say, no, whatever's best for the consumer, that's fine. I'm going to let them come in and market forces take
I think
this hold.
that's a dilemma that every regulator has to deal with. You've got to understand where do you draw the line. I want to grow the market as well, because grow the market, you will empower, you will enrich the consumer. So the smart thing to do in my book will be to, yes, we favor the consumer, but we understand that if a business that has no roots, that is predatory, yeah, and it's what you, as a regulator, there's something we call market definitions. When you have a proper understanding in defining the market and the elements within that market and how they ultimately affect the consumer, then you take a decision that if I say as a regulator that an operator with no roots that's predatory, then I'll need to take certain steps to ensure that the end result, because if that person is predatory, he has no obligation to the consumer, none.
Yeah.
So I will have to take certain decisions, which might appear to be protectionist, but ultimately are for the benefit of the consumer. But
Okay.
I think that this is a journey that should be well thought out. It's not knee-jerk reaction simply because you're in a position of authority. It has to be well thought out, and it has to be in concert with the industry as well. It's a decision that has to be well thought out.
Okay, let's go back to the content. So we've got 3 people representing platforms here. What content is driving your business? For me, you've already said that there's a challenge because some of the best content is tied up in exclusive deals. But in your experience, what's driving the business in terms of content? Does it tend to be international, or is it the local Nigerian and African content now that's building your business?
Right now, I think local content is evolving. Before, we used to think that if you don't have some international channels, you will not be able to sell a platform. But right now, the people that are building content in Nigeria, they are critically thinking and building very, very good stories. So local content is thriving. I must say that on our platform, what drives our platform right now is local content, because we do not have as much international content as every other player has. So it is the local content that is driving us. And then you asked the question about digital the other time. You didn't ask me. I wanted to say that we just launched a platform in partnership with another player in the industry to do mobile TV. So we stream our 30 channels on an app called 3 Flicks on Airtel right now. So it's not as it's not as popular as pay TV, but it is growing. So digital is growing, but pay TV, conventional pay TV, is still as much.
Sorry, can you just say that again? Because I didn't quite get that about the new partnership. That's interesting, and I'm sorry, I should have come back to you on that before. So just tell me about that again.
The reason why we had gone into partnership with people is because it makes sense when someone is already established in a business. It makes sense for you not to want to start it all over again. Because
of course, no. But who is the partner? Are you? No, don't if you can't say. But that's what I was trying to understand more about.
I don't want to mention the partner,
That's
but
fine.
but the name of the product is 3 Flicks.
Ah, okay. And how's that delivered?
So it's delivered across your phone. If you have an internet enabled phone, you can watch it through your Airtel SIM card.
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right. Content, Bamidele, what drives content in Nigeria?
Um,
What content drives
for
the
me,
pay
basically,
TV?
depending on the spectrum of the market you're dealing with, but generally, African content are beginning to define how people appreciate television, be it lifestyle, be it general entertainment, be it family entertainment. And now since this is a room filled with content providers, I always tell people that first things first, my first degree was in theater arts. I can see somebody in this room that can bear witness to that, back in the day. And content in Nigeria, every time I watch local content, there is always something missing. A good storyteller. We need to now everybody knows that Nollywood is a gigantic industry, money spinning industry. We now need to take it up another notch where we can tell good stories. And secondly, I'm very much aware that infrastructure is also a problem. There was a day I was in Hollywood. I went to Fox 21st Century Fox. And they showed me where they did Die Hard. The studio where Die Hard was recorded. And you pay, I think, $5 just to visit that studio. The same thing where they did, when I went to Universal, they showed me where they did Fast and Furious. They showed me all the Fast and Furious cars. Now, for us to get to the point at which our content becomes more appreciated, because I'm very sure if they ask everybody here, with what you've put into your content production, is your result, the reward, the financial reward, is it commensurate with the amount of effort you have put into it? I'm sure a larger proportion in this room will say no. Then the issue of monetization. How do you monetize your content? See, we signed one day. I said I wanted to buy Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Frasier.
Me too.
And everybody loves Raymond. These are things that were produced like 15, 20 years ago. They no longer broadcast. But you needed to see how much the studios were asking me to pay for Everybody Loves Raymond and Frasier. And I asked myself, I remember your face. Who has Ichioku? Who has the right to Ichioku? Who has the right to Village Headmaster? Who has the right to Tales by Moonlight? Who has the right to Cockerel at Dawn? Because I approached them in NTA one day and they told me, oh, Dele, Abba, you should know now. They don't record on top the master tape.
So do you think there's a whole generation of TV content that could have been popular?
Honestly, there is a whole, there is a library that we deliberately, for whatever reason, destroyed in Nigeria. And they are good TV. See, Married with Kids, if anybody has seen Married with Kids, they still license Married with Kids to today from Hollywood, from Sony Pictures. And I said, okay, do you even have a format that you can license to me to produce Village Headmaster again? They said, nobody thinks like that in Nigeria now. Meanwhile, we'll go out and buy format for American Idol, right? Yeah. X Factor. Somebody just created that format and is feeding on that format only. So give me the format for Village Headmaster, Cockerel at Dawn. Let me even do a fresh casting and reproduce this thing. Nobody understands stuff like that. So for those of you in this room, your content Your contents are good. Your contents are great. You can do more. However, let us think differently as to how we can see. One of the gurus in this content business just walked into this room now. And, you know, when they say kings of comedy, the first time I saw Trevor Noah perform live on stage was at the Palladium in London. First time ever, 2013, 2014.
Gonna have to wrap you up, Bamidele.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to the day where our content, as we're doing them, can become legacy content. That after one day, people will just say, forget. You know, go
Okay.
make me money again.
Good, that's a fair point. Now, we're going to go to Q&A, but Zach, because obviously content must have played a massive part in your strategy. Just before we go to Q&A, I'd just like to give you the chance to tell us about the content that the content strategy for Quasi TV. Is it homegrown in terms of African? Is it international?
Yeah, look, that's a big area, and what we've basically done is we've worked on the basis of our market segmentation. So for the top end of the market, you know, we have a lot of international, you know, content, even though we've started including local content. By local content, we're just talking about African content.
Yes.
So for our Kwese Play, this is the new TV.
Mm-hmm.
For Kwese Play, you know, we have got iFlix, we've got Netflix on there, and that's what we deliver. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I have two questions. First,
That's fine. Let's open it up to questions now. Do we have any questions for anybody on the panel? Gentleman over here? Are you going to... Is anybody going to give a microphone or...
good morning, everybody. Quite incisive talk, I must say. I'm happy to be here. I have two questions. First, I believe we have a lot of producers in the house. As a producer, I'd like to know, what kind of content are you looking at to acquire? Do you acquire content? Do you commission content for producers or to producers? And secondly, to my friend, Bamidele, good to see you. You mentioned huge problems you have setting up your outfit and all that. So what is that thing that makes you want to stay? Is it the viability? Is it the monetary value? What is it? What is that thing that makes you want to stay to make more money? If I should say that.
I'll tell you one thing. In the course of my life's journey, I believe there's so much money in this industry. Number one, there are a lot of untapped avenues. I understand pretty well that is a slow growth, high yielding industry. So I asked myself, you know, because people will tell me there's somebody in this room who used to know me when I was in banking. The easiest thing for me, probably by now, will be an MD of a bank. The easiest thing for me will have been to sit down and be making my money. So my friend here once asked me, Chairman, are you sure you know what you're doing? People have asked me, yes. It's a slow growth, high yielding industry. However, the Modocs, they didn't get there one day. It took them time, consistency. But because somebody just has to bail the cat. This can be an industry that will be killing people. You know, you go in there, it's like your Golgotha. You want to die, you go and do DTH, you die, then you're forgotten. No. Somebody just has to bail the cat, which is what I'm doing. Do I commission content? No. I don't have that resources. Because you look at people now, you say you want to commission, okay, do me a lifestyle program around cooking. You know, it's a slippery slope. You see people now on Instagram, they have their own, because of this digital stuff now, people on Instagram have their own cooking channel. And so if you get a format, say you want to do something like cooking channel, do you understand? Like the one that Discovery does, you find out that you'll have your hands burnt. So what I do basically is I buy contents from you. I look at it, does it fit within certain consumer profile, like he said. So that's what I do.
No, we don't, but we do partnerships. So if you come to us and you say that you have an idea for a channel or to create a content, we work together. We pull our production background behind you, and then we create the content together and we distribute.
We're doing partnerships. So for NBA TV, for instance, is a partner of ours, and we've got quite a lot of partners in that process. But we've do local productions that are currently going on, especially on the sports side.
Good morning, everyone. Bamidele and Denike, you said you don't commission content. I mean, you don't commission production. Um, I just have a little challenge with that comment. I asked myself as a businessman, I spent millions spending up. I spent millions setting up a TV channel, and I don't have budget to commission programs that can actually drive my brand. I don't think that is proper. You know, you were saying something during the discussion. You said something about the kind of stories that we need to improve on our stories. If before going into establishing, spending so much setting up a channel, if from inception you already have a brand, you have a picture of what you want to paint, I think it will do you a lot if you get these people, this team who will produce the right content. Many times I hear TV station, I'm a producer. Okay, I talk to TV station owners, and many times they complain about our stories. I don't withdraw my mind. I tell them, I say, look, you guys don't even know what you want. It is what the people have produced that you're buying. If you think you have an idea of what it should be, why not go into commissioning people? By the time we start this, there will be a change. The industry will grow. But right now, a lot of us are doing what we think we can do. We're keeping families alive. And we think we should be encouraged. However, you can help us by commissioning programs. Thank you.
Sorry, I would love to commission, but people who know me very well, I don't. A late friend of mine used to say, "Don't use your mouth to sew clothes where your body no go fit wear." Financially, I am not going to tell you. It's for financial reasons just yet. I will grow to the point at which I can commission an epic and take you to a studio that I build and say, okay, you are in this studio. If you want your forest scene, if you want my ideal kind of production are epics. I want to produce, for instance, the Ozidi saga. I want to produce Things Fall Apart Again. I would like to produce the Forest of 1,000 Demons. Those are because I watch them growing up. See, your Game of Thrones today, all these epics, do you know one of them took inspiration from the Forest of 1,000 Demons? And we have all these stories in Nigeria. Those are the kind of things I would like to commission personally. Because I'm tired of, life is not rosy in Nigeria. Everybody in Nigeria is not living in Banana Island or Ikoyi. But what you see on TV basically is this esoteric. But no, I want to be different. I will have the money to commission such projects. Trust me, I will. I'm that determined to do that kind of thing.
Can I answer? When you say commissioning, the reason basically because we've spoken to a lot of producers. When producers come to see you and they want you to work with them in commissioning, movies that they will produce for you at about 400,000 naira, they'll be telling you they're going to produce it at 8 million naira, and they will want you to fund. And they would want you to fund. Can I just talk, because I've met a lot of producers, and they would want you to fund it. So when you come with us with realistic budget, and something that can be done. There is no reason why we won't partner and work together on that. We already have all the equipment, all the channels that we have on our platform. We've done it based on partnerships. So people come to us and they have this content idea, and then we create it for them. So commissioning mentality to producers is just putting money down. That's the way I see it.
I was just going to say concerning that, I think that you've got two, well, I prefer to look at it as separate, as being separate industries. There's the broadcasting side, you know, the delivery. Most channels are busy putting infrastructure together, purchasing content, etc. And you might find that depending on the stage of the business, it might not be feasible to also do production or commission production. And so it would be preferable that you've got the production side taking place, and then, you know, the other side, you know, where both can be combined, that would be fantastic. If you look at Netflix, they started by buying, you know, content. Now they've gone into production of their own content. So I think it's a cycle, it's a life cycle, and it just depends where one is in the life cycle.
Hello. Yes. My name is Emeka Osai. I'm a producer. There's this age-old issues that we have with owners of these platforms, that they price our products very cheaply. When you go to discuss with them about acquiring content, they will tell you how much they have spent to get satellite, billions for this infrastructure, all sort of billions for different factors of production. And then when it gets to content, the very essence for which reason they are setting up their businesses, they'll begin to price peanuts. The reason why Fumi could think that a film could be made for 400,000, not even short films by roadside producers can be made with 400,000. Now the question is, why do you price so cheaply the essence for which you are in business? Especially when in other countries that we do better than in terms of quality of content, you probably pay higher. You come to Nigeria because you feel it's a bigger market, you begin to price cheaply.
Mr. Mr. Osai, the statement I made is not in any way to cast aspersions to anybody in this room or to any producer wherever in this country. But you would agree with me that what I have said is actually true. Okay. But we don't price the content. We price the content on what is obtainable in the market. So a Yoruba movie producer comes to us, for instance, and says that my content is 200,000 per title. In any business, you would actually want to negotiate. So it's negotiations. It's not just that we just.
I'm in the middle. I'm not an operator, but I've worked across the industry. I think there are two things here. Again, it's the small thing about what business are you in. Yeah. Some people fancy themselves as the business of infrastructure distribution. Yeah, and they believe that some other people are in the business of creating the content. So I think that we need to, both of them are important, but I think what is also important is that we need to understand that so I think that we need to, both of them are important. I think what is also important is that we need to understand that
let me do the introduction. All right, for a second. For our second panel session, Mr. Charles from Media Marketing, Annabello from RTI Distribution, and Ijoma Ona will be the moderator. Can we have Paul Igwe on stage, please? Agatha Mata, Heidi Hughes of Ebony Live, Sheila Lai Bukunle. Sheila? Huh? Anna Bello of RTI Distribution, and Ijoma Ona.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you again for staying back. I hope you're enjoying the discussions. We have the next session, which I have the privilege of moderating. And this session, we are looking at defining what producers want, the battle for revenues, and justifying production investments. The battle for revenue and justifying production investments. I'm sorry, one of the panelists, she's actually out there. Please, can you help me get her? She's a white lady. Her name is Heidi. She's just outside there. Maybe she doesn't know that this panel has started. Thank you. So we have this morning on this panel Mr. Paul Igwe. Mr. Paul Igwe is the CEO of Whitestone, and he also doubles as the president for the Electronic Media Content Owners Association of Nigeria, MCOAN. And we also have Agatha Amata, who is the CEO of Rave TV. We have Anna. Anna is the head, Anna Ballo. Anna Ballo is the head of RTI Distribution. That is the distribution arm of the radio, television, Ivorian. So they have a distribution, will I say distribution arm or company? Yes. And Anna here is in charge of international distribution or distribution in RTI. So I want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. And this morning, as the moderator of this session, I want to start to just give an overview. This is I can give you, and I want to use what is obtainable in South Africa as a case study for what we want to look at this morning. I have a little excerpt from an online resource that I want to share with us this morning because it's going to drive most of the things we're going to discuss. And I'm just going to read it. It said, the money given to TV production houses has recently come into the spotlight since Sunday Times reported that SABC, apparently this happened not too long ago, SABC CEO overruled a panel that decided to commission of a popular drama. She told us that how much they commissioned for per minute. So apparently, because this is a premium content, they were commissioned at $915 per minute. They commissioned per minute. And according to him, that is industry standard. That's industry standard. But the industry standard, which was set originally in 2014, was actually $850 per minute for commissioning. Now, TV, and this covers everything. This budget covers everything: writing, casting, shooting, music, acting, editing, everything. TV productions generate revenue for channels through advertising, okay? And then the bigger the show audience becomes, the more money the channel receives from advertising. Now the question is the production budget supposed to increase because the show's viewership has gone up? Is the production, like, let's say, Paul, your clinic matters, everybody's watching it, does that influence you to now say, okay, I want to increase, I want to pay the cast more, I want to increase, But this question is not for producers, it's actually for the broadcasters here. Well, that's how it's supposed to work, and that's how the business of TV is supposed to be. All right? And so I just wanted to give this as an overview to our discussion. What is obtainable? Because I saw your question to one of the panelists asking why, part of their business plan, they don't have any plans to commission producers. So this morning, we want to examine the current revenue models for producers. How are producers in Nigeria making money? Are they being commissioned? Is that the major source of their revenue? Are they monetizing content directly, like having their own SVOD platforms or their own mobile applications? Are they being sustained on advertising? And Paul, because you are the leader, you are the president of all the umbrella body for producers, I just want you to give us an idea. How are Nigerian producers surviving? How are they faring in terms of revenue?
Good morning once again. I'm happy because majority of people in the house today are producers, and I'm sure that as I speak, people will understand the angle I'm coming from. Let me start with MQuan. MQuan has about MQuan is a body of content owners, like the name implies, Electronic Media Content Owners Association of Nigeria. We have people who are investors, people who put in their money in television production. And over the years, majorly our source of revenue has always been we go to location, produce our content, we go to the free to air channels, buy airtime, put our content, and then we begin to source for commercials. That's the reason we're friends, we're majorly friends with media houses, the media buyers. But with time, that model seems not to be working anymore, and that's the reason I would say right now, majority of the producers are not having it well. A lot of us are not finding it funny anymore. Why? Because of digitization and because of the situation in the economy, a lot of buyers, a lot of media buyers do not buy from independent producers anymore. They would rather go to the TV stations directly. And this has affected our business. So now you find somebody who spends over 30, 40 million making 26 episodes, sometimes 39 episodes of a series, and then when he comes back, he begins to wonder how to monetize, how to get his capital back. And if you say you want to go to the stations to see if you can partner with them, it's always a problem. Because majority of the TV stations will not partner with you. Instead of partnering, they want you to pay for airtime. And when you ask why, they tell you they spent money on infrastructure. They've been able to set up the TV station, so they expect you. That's the reason I asked the question I asked earlier. How come when you're setting up these channels, you also don't consider that you have to put programs on the station? You don't put that into consideration. And then somebody who was not originally part of your business plan goes to location to produce content and brings that content to you. He expects you to partner. But instead of partnership, you just want to extort him. For me, I call it extortion. And brings that content to you. He expects you to partner. But instead of partnership, you just want to extort him. For me, I call it extortion. Because he says, look, you must pay this, you must do that, or else program will not come on air. And this majorly has been our problem. Our problem has been monetizing. That's the reason we're looking for other means. We've been trying our best, but it seemed not to be working.
Okay, so the advertising model clearly is not working.
It's not working anymore.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Igwe. Okay, somebody, you work with a national broadcaster. How are producers, independent producers, surviving? I have a bit of an idea because I've seen your catalog, and I've seen that in your catalog you have massive original programming. That tells me that you are engaging independent producers a lot. But I want you to share with us.
I want to apologize for my voice and my English because my AMS language is French. So I think I will try to speak English like some of you speak French. Okay, I'm Anna Balo. I'm a direct broadcaster need. And what is our default producer? Why we are not able to commercialize our content. When I arrived to RTI distribution, I precise that RTI distribution is an international distribution platform which aims to promote and distribute in Cote d'Ivoire and abroad RTI on production as well as those of independent Ivorian or African producer. Our platform objective is to position RTIs as a major player in the movies and the TV industry within sub-Saharan African in both French and English-speaking regions. So RTE distribution provide original, premium, and exportable content and export Ivorian culture and creativity. What we do in to RTI distribution, when our CEO arrived 6 years ago, he said that we can do anything in our TVs if we want, because content need money, producing content need money. We have out of our TV people who have talent to do it. Try to close together and try to do business together. You have to see production first as a business. Artistic aspect and others come after. But we have to consider that it is a business first. So when he came, we decided to to do the um, to buy first the content with producer for our own channel, because we make studies that show that population need to see African content. We began with Nigerian content. We have all the when is there 2 hours of Nigerian content we broadcast all the week. So, and we try to broadcast Ivorian content, but we noticed that there were not too much content for our channel. So we decided to buy content. There is not content, Ivorian content. So we decided to co-produce. It's why Airtel Distribution, he create Airtel Distribution, this company. So we try to select some producer who have experience, talent, and try to tell them, okay, we are going to do business together. You come, you've your idea, what you can put in the deal. Perhaps you have material, perhaps you have technical expert, and we gave you money to work. We began the experience. It worked with some, but it doesn't work with some because some receive, I don't know, 50 million CFA.
5 million.
No, 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 50 millions of CFA. It's like, I don't know, 50 million CFA.
5 million.
No, 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 50 millions of CFA. It's like, um, it's like,
Euro. In euro.
no, in euro, it like, it like more than 50 million, 50 hundred
500.
euro.
Okay.
They don't do the work, and we don't they, how do you say,
They don't execute.
they don't execute it. Okay, those who execute it, we take them to put them in our catalog, and we continue to work with them. How do we work with producer? We have 3 level of financing production.
Okay.
We put first a minimum guarantee.
Okay.
You have an idea, you come with your idea. We help you to develop the idea, and the next step, you help you to produce or co-produce it.
Okay.
And after we buy it for our broadcasting, to broadcast it, and after you give you lowest guarantee price to have the right to distribute it.
Okay.
So it's the three level, but producers have to know that broadcaster is not the only windows of financing a production.
Okay.
In Africa, we don't have system which help us to have money to produce, like in France, you have CNC who gives you money without
Grant.
it will give you grant to produce your film. You don't have this system of grant in Africa. So we RTI decided to be one of windows of financing production. It's what we do. We work with Ivorian producer, with some of Nigerian producer, and other country producer. So it's why we are today in Nigeria to see what we can do together, which breed we can build together.
Please, that's quite interesting. And your English is not bad at all. It's not. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us that insight. We all agree that that is very, very insightful to see how a public broadcaster is empowering sites. We all agree that that is very, very insightful to see how a public broadcaster is empowering producers, supporting producers. You know, that is very good. And we're hoping that very soon some of the producers here seated will be working with RTI in terms of production. Like Amadou said during his keynotes, we have stories that can start from Lagos and end in Abidjan, or stories that can start in Abidjan and end here in Lagos. Thank you so much, Anna, for that insight. Okay, so going to the next point now. Heidi, Heidi is the head of programming at Ebony Live TV, and as a channel, you're also going to give us an insight, just like Anna has just done. What is your content strategy? Are you more of commissioning Ebony Live TV?
Okay, thank you very much for having me on the panel today, and I hope that I can lend some insight into this bad business that is called broadcasting. First and foremost, I'd like to opportunity to straddle all angles of the industry, from a producer's financial side of business into being the creative who now has to make content that hopefully people will view. And then obviously then as a business, how do we make money, which is always the big question. Speaking on behalf of independent producers, I think we fall into a trap where we think that we are not a business, that we're only about the creative ideas. If you come up with a creative first and foremost, I'd like to sort of just say that my beginnings has also been as a producer of content, which I did for a full 10 years, and then I jumped ship over to the creative side. So I've had the wonderful opportunity to straddle into a trap where we think that we are not a business, that we're only about the creative ideas. If you come up with a creative idea that cannot make money, your idea is simply wrong. I agree that, as the rest of the panelists have already said, making content is a business. Content should be seen as a gold commodity. Gold is as valuable as what it is because there's very little of it left. There's very little of it underground. So when it gets above ground, it's expensive to make, it's expensive to have. So the market has determined a gold price. You can liken content to gold. It is a product. But the huge difference is it's lying around there for everybody to grab. And the more of it is that there are that's just done and made indiscriminately. So in other words, you're just mining for the sake of, oh, I have an idea, I can quickly make it on the cheap, maybe someone will buy it. It's simply not the approach to making content. So if that is our attitude towards how we're going to approach our business, it's just everywhere, little crumbs to pick up. How do we expect a market to pick it up at a price and at a value that is going to work for us? So it starts with a value proposition in the first place. If you have 2 koboms to make your program, consider that that kobom is worth more than platinum. You're going to have to turn that little money that you have around 12 times. You're going to where you're going to go, oh my God, I love this so much that I am going to tune into my own stuff 1,000 times and watch it. So consider what you produce very carefully and consider the market that you're going to produce in. So in other words, don't just go and make content because, oh, I'm so creative, I can make content. Every penny you spend is worth so much that I am going to tune into my own stuff 1,000 times and watch it. So consider what you produce very carefully and consider the market that you're going to produce in. So in other words, don't just go and make content because, oh, I'm so creative, I can make content. Every penny you spend is worth something. And it needs to be spent in a way that whatever comes out, whether you spend 2 koboms on it or 1 billion naira, it has to come out a product that is a gem, that someone will see amongst many, many crumbs that lie around and go like, oh my God, that thing is shining. I want that particular way. So in other words, as producers, whoever is a producer out there that has a proposition to bring, go and do your research. Go and see who you are delivering to. What constitutes that channel? Is it a terrestrial channel that has a very wide and diverse footprint to speak to a segment? What is it that I have? Is it going to be a fit? Etc., etc., etc. So advice is always make the kind of content that you want to watch, that you are proud to bring to TV, and that becomes a sellable proposition. And do your market research. There are very few buyers of content in the market. Design it in a way that someone out there, and not just someone, that someone has a name. Research your market very well so that whatever you bring to market has the ability to be picked up, because it's going to be cutting through the noise of so much that is out there. And even if you made it on the cheap, make it good. Spend your time. If you don't have all the money in the world, make sure that you understand very well that you make your money work very well for you. You'll be surprised at how under pressure budgets are. Having been in the broadcast industry for now the latter part of 10 plus years, having produced in that area for nearly 20, having spent 10 years directing content of that, and now sitting inside of a broadcast, I can tell every one of you in this room that budgets have only gone one way, and that's down. And that is a global trend. Then we come and we feel the huge victim of what is an economic fate. And, you know, filmmaking, TV making is a business. And, you know, we also happen to be in a business where everyone is addicted to what? To television. But we need to put a value to that we make. TV making is a business. And, you know, we also happen to be in a business where everyone is addicted to what? To television. But we need to put a value to that we make. We need to understand that every market has a value point, and every market can only offer that much. The rare, and it's usually disrupts the market, but how many times in a decade does it come along?